who have said yes to our calling in whatever form it takes, we know it when we see it and when we feel it and when we hear it. And I know that you two have said yes to a deep calling in your life to bring us the joy of music. Music is an expression of spirit and as spirit. And thank you for embodying that, both of you, through your notes, through your wonderful writing, Helen, through your presence, and through your incredible voice. You know, all of it is an instrument. All of us are instruments for God source. That's really who and what we've come here to be. So what we're talking about today is we're talking about growing our comfort zone. And I was joking with a couple people earlier that my intention today is see if we can get a little uncomfortable here in this room today. So are we ready for a little discomfort? Yes. You know, I was thinking a boat is really safe in its harbor. But that's not what a boat is designed to do. Right? It's designed to set sail, to be out on the ocean. And so we as spiritual beings are designed, our blueprint is to be in the world as God, as source, as love. Simply said, that's what we're here to do, and that's who we've come here to be. And yet we also, as human beings, love our comfort. Right? So imagine for a moment that you're by the warm fireplace and you've got those fuzzy slippers on, right? It's so comfortable. As a matter of fact, many human beings spend our entire life trying to be comfortable, trying to find comfort. There was a survey of Americans done at one point, and the number one thing that Americans are seeking is safety. Take that in for just a moment. Safety. So for some, that means building a wall. And for some of us, that means taking the walls down so that we can expand. I had a great teacher once that used to say, consciousness is like an infinite sea of little dots. So I want you to imagine for a moment the galaxy, the universe, and its vastness. We actually don't know if or where it ends. Do we realize that? We don't know. We know that it seems infinite, that as far as we see it, there's more and there's more and there's more. And consciousness is like that. We are literally swimming in a field of infinite potential. And if you ask a fish, not that it can talk, that we know of, to tell us about water, it doesn't know about water. It's in the water. It's swimming in the water. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're swimming in this sea of infinite possibilities. And yet we've limited ourselves to a planet, right? As a metaphor, to a planet, to one way of being and seeing. And as Reverend Michael Beckwith says, our agreements with mediocrity. Our agreements with mediocrity. So consciousness is vast and infinite and endless. Infinite possibilities in this and every moment. And yet we have decided this is what reality is right here. So I don't know that we actually grow at all. We just simply grow in awareness of the infinite possibilities that exist in every moment. That's not defined by the agreements that we've made with our smallness. So consciousness expanding is like we can see more, we can experience more. And imagine for a moment that planets are like all these little choices that we've made. Right? There's the planet of mediocrity. There's the planet of not enoughness. There's the planet of racism. There's the planet of sexism. There's the planet of something's wrong with me. Or, you know, in my family, ... So what are those agreements? What planet are you living on right now? What is the choice that you're making in this moment? And how does that impact the way you see the world and the way you experience the world? And so growing in awareness is opening up to this infinite potential. Recognizing that we are not only swimming in a field of infinite potential, that universe is within us. That we are literally that infinite field. As Reverend Joan, one of her favorite quotes from Rumi is, out beyond the ideas of rightness and wrongness, there is a field, I will meet you there. And that's Rumi. And I don't think he was talking about a wheat field. I mean, maybe it's fun to like have a picnic out in the field with your friend and your picnic basket, maybe you have some wine, I don't know. It's very comfortable. But we're talking about a field of possibilities, a field of infinite potential. And the reason I'm bringing in those planets is I think many of us spend our lifetime trying to change the planets. I'm going to change my story over here. I'm going to spend many, many years looking at the story, trying to reframe the story, trying to create a new story. But what if we simply tapped into something much greater and we didn't need to change anything in our own lives? So what do I mean by that? What am I saying nothing needs to change in order for me to be free? There is a level of conscious awareness that's beyond our stories and our beliefs and our ideas. And when we really know that, when we step fully into that field of infinite possibilities, we can look at the planets, using those as a metaphor for the decisions, the beliefs, the ideas, the structures of knowing and our BS, our belief systems. I think I'm going to say that every week for a while because I just love that. What is the BS that I have decided is true? What is my belief system? And what if there's something way beyond belief, way beyond my ideas of rightness and wrongness and good and bad? And when I tap into that, there is oneness. So, and we live in this world, and we live in this world where it does seem like all of that other stuff is happening. So I think the big question for many of us at this time, because we're in the midst of the Great Awakening, the greatest awakening that's ever happened on the planet is happening in this moment. And each of us are called to be not only a part of that, but to fully embody that shift that's happening. And so what does that mean in terms of what we see in the world? One of the things I'm so incredibly grateful for about Agape as a movement is that we are dedicated to not pretending like that's not happening. Because a lot of New Thought, that's what we do, right? There's only love and light, there's only love and light. I actually had someone say to me, I don't believe in germs. So, okay, I understand that, but what if they have no power over me in this moment? So does it serve me, especially as a white man, to say racism doesn't exist? I don't think so. But what I can say is there is a power greater than that. There is a power that is greater than anything that separates us. And when we fully know that, we get to embrace and look at that from a different viewpoint. So imagine, again, the metaphor that consciousness is the universe that is infinite, and we've made all the agreements of planet Earth. And planet Earth is this tiny little speck in the infinite possibilities. And so all of what we've collectively agreed to exists because we've collectively agreed to it. And so it's time at this moment for each of us in this room, love streaming and beyond, to make the decision that we're no longer going to play in that field, but we don't need to ignore it either. As a matter of fact, the issue becomes, if we pretend like that's not happening, then what happens to that? Any ideas? What might happen if we pretend like that's not happening? It's still there.
Not believing in gravity.
It's like not believing in gravity. It's still there. It's still there, but when we make a decision that we're going to stand in a deeper reality, we can not only see that from a different viewpoint, but this affects that in a very, very huge way that all the resistance and the fighting and the struggling will not accomplish. So, to be clear, I'm not saying we pretend like it's not there. We hold a deeper reality, and we stand in the absolute knowing of who and what we are, which is beyond any of that. It is God itself. Not God flowing through me, but as me. Now that's a big shift for a lot of us. As me, as you. The Big Bang happened, and we're all particles of that source energy. And as particles of that source energy, we have an opportunity to make a difference in what we call reality. Because when I shift and I say, I'm no longer going to play in the field of mediocrity, of us and them, and good and bad, and right and wrong, I'm going to stand in a greater reality, and that is then going to shift not only what I see, but literally what happens on the planet. So what does this have to do with a comfort zone? Whether we are aware of it on a conscious level or not, we have agreed to race consciousness. And what we mean by race consciousness is the human race. We've agreed on some way to the stories that get passed down. I had the opportunity to spend Mother's Day with my mother. She often love streams, so I love you, Mother, from Sacramento. And I got to hear some of the stories. The stories that have been passed down about right and wrong and good and bad, and what it means to be a member of our family, and what it means to be human, and illness, and all the rest. And when we agree to all of this, we actually perpetuate that. And when we fight against it, we actually intensify it. So we are called right now to actually live what Jesus came here, Jesus the Christ came to teach. And what is it? To be in the world but not of it. To be in the world and not of it. He didn't say, that we know of, leave the world. Because that's also comfortable for some of us, right? I'm out of here. I'm not even going to look at that. I'm not going to play in that field. But what we're called to do is to know absolutely who we are and then be in the world. So back to the comfort zone. Whether we acknowledge it or not, we often have made agreements with that which feels really comfortable for us. And when we expand our awareness beyond what's comfortable, we can grow an awareness of this greater reality. But I call it trouble at the border. When we're shifting, it's like it's burning off this old way of being and this old way of seeing. So yes, sometimes it can be even painful. But here's the thing. We have collectively decided that certain feelings are negative and certain ones are positive. So I have chosen to remove some words from my vocabulary, and I have those two new ones. And here's the funny thing about that. I wrote 2 books, and it's filled with those words. It's filled with those words. It's like, oh gosh, I knew that that's the thing about putting it in writing, because 15 minutes later, I can evolve and awaken to a greater level of understanding. I know Steve knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's there. And yet I have a different awareness. Because it's comfortable to feel joy. And it's uncomfortable to feel sadness. Now that may not be true for everyone. I may have this kind of love affair with my sadness. I kind of like it. You know, I was thinking about planets as these decisions, these PowerPoints. You know, what we know in quantum physics now is that when the observer has an effect, and when we call it something, it manifests in that way. I was thinking about the shame planet. Like it's like a sea of oatmeal and we're just swimming in it. Like kind of stuck in those old ways of being and those old ways of seeing, and there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with you, and we need to somehow get away from all of this. So what happens when we decide that maybe, possibly, I'm using words that open us up, maybe, possibly, there's no such thing as a negative emotion, or a positive emotion, or a negative feeling, or a positive feeling. We have a collective agreement that a nice day is 70 degrees and sunny. But what happens when we make the decision that we're going to enjoy a 52-degree rainy day? What happens if we get out and dance in that in the midst of it and feel the wetness and feel the chill? Because I see a lot of us want to complain about that. Now, think about that for a moment. I'm only happy when it's 70 degrees and sunny. What kind of life is that? Misery! Unless you live in San Diego. So we can all move to San Diego and then we'd be fine, right? Then everything would be great. We could live there and it'd be 70 degrees every day. I'm sure we'd find something. As a matter of fact, I lived in Laguna Beach for a while and it didn't rain for 14 months. I complained about that. I complained. Where's my rain? I love the rain. I miss the rain. I gotta move away from here. It's that place. That's the issue. So what we're talking about in growing our comfort zone is allowing ourselves to meet our edge where maybe it's a little uncomfortable. Maybe I have to start questioning every belief, every idea, every structure of knowing that I've agreed to, the mediocrity that I've agreed to. And what if we decide that we don't have to be stuck on planet Earth, that we can open up to that which is not even known yet by our human brain? This isn't about figuring it out. This is about opening up to that which is greater than any idea or belief I've ever had. And for some of us, it's a process of also questioning everything. How is this serving me? Where did I get this idea? How do I feel when I believe this? And ultimately, what else is possible? What else is possible in this moment? Because as I liberate myself, it naturally liberates others. Thank you, Marianne Williamson, for that. As I let my own light shine, I naturally give permission for others' light to shine. And that's what we're called to do. That's who we're called to be. And we create conscious community, an intentional community, because we can hold each other to that in a gentle and loving and compassionate way. In other words, some days I might forget that. So I'll come to Agape Bay Area, and Helen will remember that for me, and I'll look in her eye. Joan will remember that for me, and a look in her eye, and an energy hold that she's holding, the feeling tone. Because here's what I want to close with. We are all tuning into a frequency. And those of us who have chosen to be in this room are tuning into the frequency of love. And as we come together, now if we're old school, remember radios? The radio does shh, 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 and then you tune in and you can hear it. It was there all along. It's about adjusting that dial and tuning into the frequency of love. Because there's plenty of other frequencies going on right outside this door. We don't need to make them right or wrong. We can recognize that the way we can really make a difference in our own lives and therefore in the lives of others is to question all of those belief systems, all those ideas, all those structures of knowing, so that we can land in and live in our own magnificence and tune into that frequency. And because we've come into this room, and because people are love streaming, and because in Los Angeles right now there are hundreds of people also at Agape, and all other types of spiritual communities and loving communities, meditation communities, intentional people coming together to tune into the frequency of love. And what we know is it takes a very small percentage to shift the planet, moment by moment. And we are the ones that hold the dial. We may not know we're holding the dial. I didn't know I was holding the dial. Some of those channels are really seductive. Fear. Oh, I know that one. Let me tune into fear. Oh, God. Oh, how could... I'm so afraid. And then you get people to join in with you, co-sign on the story. So, I can say, Christine, I'm really afraid because this is going to happen. Don't you agree with me? And then she can agree with me, and then we can build that even more. And then more of us are tuned into the frequency of fear, and it creates more fear. And then somehow we wake up and say, how did that happen? And then we come to a divine moment like this one, where we're together speaking words, because it's not me speaking the words. We're together speaking the words of a new paradigm. A new frequency, a frequency of love, that when we tune into that, and because we've tuned into that, all the other channels are no longer in our awareness. And we can look at the other channels as love. So what I really want to close with is this is an invitation for each of you in this moment to know that we've come together here to tune into that frequency, and the invitation is that we now go out into the world and be that frequency. Because as I love to say, life is a great experiment. So what are you playing with today? What's your commitment to play with today? What would love do? What might happen if I decided that in the midst of singing this forward, I could be that piece that is needed? That's what we're here to do. That's who we've come here to be. I know because we've walked in this door, we know that at a soul level. And we we've come here to celebrate and to know that and to be that in the world. And as Reverend Jones says, it's not a ripple effect, it's an instant shift that happens on the planet. Somewhere across the world, and what we know is on planets that we'll never even probably go to. There's a shift happening. And it's happened right now, in this moment, because we've chosen.